Here we have AJ Serrano. He's my creative partner and my partner. And we met as video editors at a media company. And here we are today, 6 years later, making our own things.
Hailey and I have both lived in the city for about
11?
10 years each,
Yeah.
but we met 6 years ago.
Yeah.
I have been making movies ever since I was a little kid. My older sister and younger brother and I used to make home movies in our basement. Our basement in Massachusetts really felt like a magical space. After 10 plus years of working in entertainment, both in Los Angeles and then in New York City, or it was around like the pandemic years, I had got laid off from a long time video editor job, and I was like, I hit my early 30s, and I was like, it is time to do what I've always wanted to do, which is make my own films. And my siblings were very supportive of it, and they helped build this LLC, this Haunted Basement Productions LLC, and we started a podcast. And then in 2023, that's when I had this idea for the short film Night Train. Hailey was the first one I sent the script to, and she was like, this is great, let's make it. And her being someone outside of my family, the first person outside of my family saying, this is great, we should make it, just infused so much confidence in me. I'm like, yeah, I can do this. And ever since then, ever since like 2023, when we shot that, the company has started to grow more and more to the point where a friend of mine like asked us to produce his short film. And that's just how it just starts with little project that you're interested in, that comes from your heart, that just builds and builds to something where we're trying to make Haunted Basement something where we release movies in theaters.
Haunted Basement is not exclusively producing horror films, but I am curious, what is special about the genre of horror? And for your first two short films, what is captivating to you about these ideas?
Well, for me, I was a scaredy cat most of my life when it came to movies. Even though I love movies, my imagination already runs wild. So movies and seeing it on screen and hearing it stay with me a longer time than it would normally, I guess. But I think maybe after meeting AJ, so maybe 6 years ago, and I think when I introduced myself to you, when we started talking a little more, I told you that I don't like horror movies, and you're just like, cool. And then he saw my website and saw my drawings, because I have these drawings because I love doodling, and I did Inktober, and they're all like ghost related or skeletons and then so AJ messages or tells me at the office, like, you said you don't like horror, and he sends me a screenshot of like a picture I drew, and he's like, this is horror. So I'm like, oh, okay. So that made me more confident to explore that side, and I guess the darker side, which is not even that dark to me, but it's just a whole genre that I was afraid of, and now it opened up, as a movie lover, a whole genre of films that I'm not as scared to watch because I have more of like, I guess it's already in me a little bit. And that led me to going through my own film school of watching a lot more horror movies, just purely out of interest and the creativity of a horror movie, not needing to have the same budget or star, and seeing what people make. It's just much more free of a medium. So that's my journey with the horror, which is more 6 years now.
These like early magical moments for me of watching movies as a kid, being terrified. I remember watching like Men in Black as a kid, and it's not a scary movie, but there are scary parts to a 7-year-old watching them. And for me to be able to remember how I felt when I watched that at age 7, and now at the age of 35, I'm like, there's like an activeness to watching horror movies that does not exist as much in watching other movies. It's almost like an exorcism of, okay, I was scared of this as a kid, but if I make it, then I have control over my fear, or I can like understand fear a bit more because I'm manipulating the action on screen.
You're lifting the curtain.
Yes.
You're looking behind the curtain, seeing the mechanics of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what draws me to it.
Maybe it's just like Batman. You gotta hang out with the bats to face your fears. So leading to Haunted Basement, our short film, all these themes that we share, similar feelings towards fear, and thinking that in order to be afraid, you have to have some part of your brain and your body be open to the unknown. And that, as we get older, kind of goes away. And it's more like a protective mechanism, and you become more realistic. But I think it's important to have that wonder, and that's what we're trying to explore with the short film Haunted Basement, of a kid who is afraid, like too old to be afraid of certain things, but they're still afraid of the dark, and trying to explore that and saying that it's not a bad thing.
You guys were just talking about the economics of the film industry. You mentioned like a studio model where it's at today. Can you maybe like describe for people who aren't in this industry how people make money, if people are making money? What are like some of the challenges today?
Do you want to go, AJ? You know more film history than I do.
Well, it seems like there's a small percentage of people who are making money in the studio system who are already established. And then for people like Hailey and me, we've realized that we just have to build our own thing. Mm-hmm. So there are people who, you know, they build a following on TikTok or YouTube, and they build channels that are profitable through that. That's still a small percentage of people. But it does seem like nowadays, where a studio system has basically collapsed, that you have to find your own audience. And that's what Hailey and I have been trying to do over the last couple of years, build a small audience who likes the things that we're interested in.
In the past, how did the studio model work in theory and in practice, and what's caused it to sort of like break down today?
So back in like the 30s and 40s, the studios owned everything. The directors and actors really didn't have any say in the projects that they were working on, but they got paid handsomely for having no say. And also the studios had control over the distribution wing, and they were also loaning out their studio spaces to film at. So they were making money at all steps of the production process and post-production and distribution. And then I think in the late 40s, there was this law called the Paramount Decree, where the government's like, basically the studio system is a monopoly. You have to break up. You can't own your distribution wing anymore. And then slowly over the last, 60, 70 years, the studio system has lost more and more power. Unions also grew in strength, so it became more expensive to employ crew members, to the point where we saw in the last couple of years where SAG had this huge strike that was very heartwarming to watch. But now, 2 years later, we realize that the studio system has responded to that by basically not employing American film workers, but going overseas for production. But Hailey and I are like, we still love movies. We still want to make movies. And movies are made no matter what social climate you are in. Back in World War II, the French, who I believe were like occupied by Nazi Germany, they were still churning out movies while like under that threat. So I've been thinking lately over the last year, like if they can do that under that threat, we can figure out how to make something that we like, a movie that we want to make under our circumstances.
Yeah, what are some of the challenges that you guys have faced so far? This is your second movie.
We made a short film together 2 years ago now, and that's a film that AJ wrote and directed and produced, and then I produced and did graphics and whatever else we needed. And we had such a rush of it being our first short film that's our own, not other people's, and at a budget that's much higher than we did on our smaller projects. So it was all very exciting and a success, and now we're here in our sophomore year basically realizing that going a different route to find the financing, not through your community, but through private funding has changed.
Well, yeah, we crowdfunded the first one.
Yeah, we crowdfunded the first one, and we were so heartwarmed by the response and that we were able to raise all that money. But shortly after the first film, we decided we're not going to do that again because we can't ask that from the same people, and we don't want to do the same thing, and there's a different way to go about it. So at the start of our second short film, and this one we wrote together and we're directing it together and producing together, and we're discovering after 8 months of trying to finance through a private route that it's so much more that we didn't know. So we're learning a lot, and we haven't found much success, but we're learning so much more, meeting many people, but it's taking much longer to reach our goal than our first short film.
What is the incentive for someone to invest in films? In the startup world, or in like the tech startup world, investors are making bets that of the 1,000 companies that you invest in, one is gonna return the entire portfolio. And so like the way the model works is it's like a lottery hit-based model. Contrast that with film, what are investors seeking to do actually? Is there a business model? Like, what does it look like?
We've been asked this question a lot by the investors, potential investors this year, and it varies person to person, but a lot of people want to eventually make money from the sale of it, whether it be streaming or theatrical release. Because of that, a lot of people are looking for feature films, not short films, which is what AJ and I are making, because that's the idea we have right now. And we say, just let's make it, we have this, let's go. But because there isn't much of a return usually, people ask about the feature, which is in the works. Even for feature films, it's not guaranteed. So it's more of a gamble, which is why a lot of filmmakers, especially these days, are struggling to find financiers, because it's a gamble. So you got to find the right person, I guess, who is willing to take that bet. But also, I was going to say one more thing. Yeah.
Well, we know that it's a gamble. And also what you were describing, where you're like sort of like it's a lottery-based thing where you're relying on one or two hits. That's how the studio system works too. Like Barbie and Oppenheimer were two films that single-handedly lifted the American film industry a couple years ago. So it works at like the biggest budget levels. But we realized that, a short film is rarely going to make back its budget. It's more so people want to get involved with short films more so for the clout of it, being involved, having your name pop up first in the credits, opening credits. And then also we realized that we need to learn the producer game a bit more for this project and figure out like the tax implications of financing a film. We realized that we could collaborate with a nonprofit, the Gotham, and so all of the donations or all the contributions to our short film will be tax deductible to the person who donates. So that's something that was like could be an advantage for someone who maybe they're not going to make their money back, but they could put their tax money to something that they'd rather put their tax money to.
And get to show it off to their friends.
Yes.
So it's like almost a win-win, hopefully, for them. It's what we're aiming to do with the nonprofit.
And finally, it's like we're not just trying to make short films. We're building up towards, we're trying to build up a production company that makes feature films that release theatrically and make money. Right now we're just looking for someone who really believes in the stories that we want to tell, this particular story, and is sort of in it for the long run of like, maybe this one doesn't make money, but you guys have talent and you guys have a vision.
The production company is the same name as the short films, Haunted Basement Productions, and that's made by AJ and his two siblings. And with that company, we've been trying to meet as many more filmmakers as we can just to build a community. Because like I said earlier, it's so important to have a community, but also see like what people are starting to create and what ideas that they have, because we just want to make things that we all gravitate towards and feel strongly about. So we're producing our other friend's short film, and that one we're just producers on it, and that's the first time doing that, and we're so excited and feel just as strongly as our own like written directing projects.
And it's not a horror film. We're not just making.
Yeah, because even though it's Haunted Basement, AJ and his siblings grew up in Massachusetts. It's I believe, after visiting several times now, that's a very haunted place. So they're so into that. But it's Haunted Basement Productions. It's just more of the curiosity aspect of anything can happen in the basement, but not just horror films. We do love horror, but we also love all types of movies. Mm-hmm. So our next one with our friend is a dramedy.
Yeah, so I think just closing questions for the two of you. What is someone, dead or alive, who inspires you? Maybe separate answers, or if you converge on the same answer, that'd be crazy. But yeah.
I mean, it's Steven Spielberg, definitely. Like my whole life, I've been inspired by him. Someone who like seems like he's been able to translate his dreams onto a screen, which is just so inspiring. Like his movies, they have a magic quality to it that I will always aspire to try to create in my own movies.
And I guess for me, I'm more of in the existential or trying to figure out who I am part of that, because I used to have a lot of people I looked up to and icons, but for the last 5-6 years, I think I kind of let go of that desire to become someone or become like someone, even though I used to be very influenced. And since then, I feel more of like a who am I, meaning who do I gravitate towards? And it happens to actually be people in my actual life. Like one person is sitting over there recording us, and it's people like that that really inspire me because it's more achievable because you know them and you hear their stories. But of course, I love huge filmmakers and artists. I do really admire their work and they influence me, but not in a way that the people in my life have.
Yeah, give me an example.
Of
People in your life.
Well, I said the guy over there, his name is Ant Hole.
Yep, shout
Anthony
out.
Hole, side projects.
Yep.
He is just someone we met 2 years ago. It was just a friend of a friend, or our mutual friend connected us because Ant was he's a director, he was looking for an editor. And so we met up to have coffee, and it was like we knew each other all our lives. Almost like we're just siblings, that's what it felt like. And since then, it's just having similar values and a drive, but also ups and downs that are very understandable to each other, and always chasing after what we're trying to do, but also being open about how it's really hard, how it sucks. Like that type of stuff really inspires me, especially when they end up making stuff or, even in their personal lives, achievements really inspire me. So that's like the number one person, because I guess he's also right next to me, but all of the last, since I've met him, I've never named someone so much in a convo to people who don't know him.
When you do describe Ant, how do you describe him to people?
His name is Ant, but he's like the tallest person I know, and he has like an equally the largest heart because he's a tall guy, but it also translates to being so compassionate and open, and also about community and trying to live a good life and surround yourself with good people. And we all want to make the dream big movies, and we have that dream still, but are also very much in the day-to-day of each other and supporting each other, especially when it's rough, because life, it goes up and down. But I think that type of community-oriented person opened my world to so many other people, but also just made my life so much more better as a filmmaker as well.
Anything you want to say, AJ, or around Spielberg or Ant or inspiration?
I also love Spielberg, but my I love Spielberg too. I'm a Spielberg head as well, and thanks to AJ, we went to see Spielberg speak after a screening of Sugarland Express, and that was incredible. I never thought I'd see him because he's getting older and older, but I was so happy to see him there. But I think for me, my Spielberg is more of a James Cameron, because Titanic is it's the movie that made me think you can sink a ship for a living. I didn't realize that you could kind of do anything with movies as long as you have an idea and the right people behind you.
And David Lynch too, someone who just sort of showed that you can make movies that are strange and uncomfortable and prickly, but they still are so emotionally resonant because he's just exploring stuff that most people feel like is inappropriate to explore or just shameful. But he's like, no, I'm going to do it, and he just did it with such integrity, and I miss him.
Yeah, integrity and also such kindness. I've never heard anything bad about him as a person, and because I've experienced not great people on set, it's really important to have, it's so cool to have someone who's now passed but has influenced so many people, and he's not a bad person. He was always about making sure people feel good and confident, boosting people up, which is, we love people, hype people up, and also curious about everything, staying curious.
To wrap it up, where can people go to support you and check out Haunted Basement?
We mentioned our nonprofit, that's Through the Gotham, and we'll have a link somewhere in our bio for that, and that's where you can donate if you want to chip in to help reach our budget to make our film this September. And then there's also our Instagram, or Haunted Basement Productions Instagram.
The Instagram is at _Haunted Basement _, or you can go on our website, hauntedbasement.video. You can watch a bunch of other films that we've made, including Night Train.
Yeah, go to Gotham. And follow you guys on Instagram. Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Shout out Side Project. Shout out Haunted Basement. Shout out Halal. Who else do we have to shout out?
Shapeshift.
Shout out Shapeshift.